Hello and welcome to TiddyTalk.
Hi,
Hi.
We are your hosts. I'm Sam,
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Mallory.
and today we have some more interesting things to talk about. Today on our podcast, we are talking about Kim's Convenience star Sam Liu, who has broken his silence about producers and showrunners behind the show. We'll be talking about a family that was murdered in London, Ontario, an act charged by racism. And finally, we'll be talking about a woman who went viral on the internet, known as the Airport Karen, who literally demanded for the airport manager in a rant video. Jumping right into it, our first topic, Mr. Sam Liu, who, if you don't know, he plays Jung on Kim's Convenience, which is a hit show on Netflix. He has come forward recently and he, as they would say, spilled the tea on the producers and showrunners who are behind the creation of the show. Sam Liu criticized the writers' room for their lack of diversity on his former sitcom, Kim's Convenience. Again, for those who don't know, the show is now over. The fifth season is filmed and done. Sharing an impassioned Facebook post this week, the Jung star identified a lack of East Asian and female representation within the creative team, which would have offered extra authenticity to the storylines. He said, aside from creator Ines Choi, there was no other Korean voices in the room, and personally, I do not think he did enough to be a champion for those voices, including ours. When he left without so much as a goodbye note to the cast, he left no Portage, no Pondit learner, no Korean talent that could have replaced him, Liu wrote to his fans. I tried so hard to be that person. I sent him spec scripts I was working on, early cuts of short films I had produced. I voiced my interest in shadowing a director or writer's room. My prior experience had taught me that if I just put myself out there enough, people would naturally be inclined to help. And boy, was I wrong there. I wasn't the only one who tried. He continued on, saying, many of us in the cast were trained screenwriters with thoughts and ideas that only grew more seasoned with time. But those doors were never opened to us in any meaningful way. Elsewhere in his statement, the Chinese Canadian star expressed how increasingly frustrated he became with the way his character was being portrayed on screen. I think this is a natural part of a collaborative undertaking like making a TV show. Everyone is going to have different ideas on where the character ought to go and what stories ought to be told, he explained. But it was always my understanding that the lead actors were the stewards of the character and would grow to have more creative insight as the show went on. This was not the case on our show, which was doubly confusing because our producers were overwhelmingly white, and we were a cast of Asian Canadians who had a plethora of lived experience to draw from and offer to writers. So that's the first article that I found related to that.
Damn.
Let me see in the second article here. So, while Liu praised the phenomenal crew and co star Nicole Power that he had on the show, who played Shannon, he did add that he has no intention to reprise his role on her new spin off show in any capacity. His co star, Nicole Power, I guess, is getting her own spin off show related to Kim's Convenience. This is her. You've probably seen pictures of her from like promotions of the show and what have you. I guess the fact that him saying that he's not going to reprise his role is kind of a big deal because if she's getting a spin off, I would assume it would involve her relationship with his character. Sam Liu's co star, Andrew Fung, who played Kimchi on the show, also had some comments. He said, I want the show to succeed, but I remain resentful of all the circumstances that led to the one non Asian character getting her own show. Sam Liu also addressed what he called the horse poop pay the actors were locked into for multiple seasons despite the show's sky high ratings. National Post contacted CBC regarding Liu's accusations. A spokesperson wrote, it's not our place to speak for the producers of Kim's Convenience or for Sam Liu, but added the network was excited to continue working with Liu on an upcoming TV show. A spokesperson for Thunderbird Entertainment said the producers don't have any further comments at this time and referred the post to a press statement made in April announcing the show's ending, more than a month before Liu's Facebook post was made. Authenticity of storytelling is at the center of the success of Kim's Convenience, the statement begins. It states the show closed shop because of the departure of its creators, Choi and Kevin White. We have come to the difficult conclusion that we cannot deliver another season of the same heart and quality that has made the show so special, it reads. So that's what the network said. This is Sam Liu's Facebook post. I mean, we can leave it on screen for a few seconds for those who want to read the whole thing. He really went in on him.
Really exposing Netflix for their racism.
I mean, like we've had this conversation before in just like day-to-day casualty that like TV shows that have a diverse cast should have people of those ethnicity in the creative room.
Yeah, they're just putting on a mask of, oh yes, we are inclusive on the outside. On like surface level, we hired Asian actors to play Asian people because I know people can be like, oh, finally, yeah, and then you look at
Yeah.
like who's behind everything, and it's like, oh, this is a bunch of
That's what did.
white men.
That's what
Again.
disappointed me because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this show is so inclusive. They have Korean Canadians, they have Chinese Canadian people, they have people who are actually Muslim, people who it's like it's not overwhelming. It's more people of color in the show than white people. And I'm like, that's really refreshing to see. And then you find out the people who made the show is just literally all white people and you're like, oh,
There's no flavor. Where's the flavor?
it's the same with the Mulan movie, wasn't it? There was like barely anybody of actual Asian ethnicity making that movie.
I wonder if Netflix will say anything about it.
Netflix is so shady.
I know they haven't said anything yet, so like I feel like if they're gonna say something, they probably would have by now.
I read in one of the articles, like I just saw it as I was skimming, that Netflix doesn't actually own the show. Netflix just licenses it, so I don't know if they'll.
Netflix doesn't own most shows that it has.
In my opinion, if you're hosting the show, you should. It's like because it's on your streaming platform, so like I feel like you have a little bit of responsibility for it.
Rachel knows she works on a Netflix set. Spill the tea.
Well, I was just trying to find the character right now, but on the show that I worked, I won't name it. One of the characters in the written material, I should say, is actually a person of color, but in the show, they're white. And I was looking up the character. I only noticed that because I've never read it, and I was like, well, I want to look because I knew it was based off a comic, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go Google it. Like, I'm interested because I'm on the set. So I Googled it, and like 2 or 3 characters are not the ethnicity they are in the comics, and I was like, huh, it's quite interesting. I wonder why they did that. And I personally feel, because like I've spoken to the actors before, I personally feel it's just because they were given that role, not necessarily like on Netflix's side, it was probably because I want to whitewash, but like the actors they had signed for it without knowing much of the character, so they probably weren't giving any description except just, yeah, it's a like mid-30s woman or something, or like a child in this big family or something like that.
Did the show get backlash for that casting or no?
No, so they didn't get backlash for it because the current season they're filming is different.
Okay. The other thing that he said bothers me too, because that seems to be a recurring issue, is that people of color are constantly being paid less. And I know sometimes it depends on how big of a celebrity you are, because I know people had a complete uproar over the second Jurassic World movie because Chris Pratt was being paid more than his female co-star. But technically, what they said is that Chris Pratt is a bigger star than his female co-star, so that's why he's being paid more. The Sam Liu said like the entire cast of Kim's Convenience were all brand new actors. Like none of them had been in anything before.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure I can attest to that because I've never seen them in anything before. So the fact that they're all brand new actors, you'd think they'd all get paid like a pretty good equal lump sum, but no, they got shit pay. And the fact I've heard of this situation before, which is what makes me think it's shady, is when people of color tend to get paid less just because they are people of color.
Yeah, which is like racism still. Like,
In 2021, god damn it.
why is that still a thing? What, like, who's allowing this to happen? We need to launch a federal investigation on why this is allowed.
These actors are talented. Like they should be getting paid good money because they are funny. They are so good at projecting emotion. The one character, she's so good at playing like an overachieving know-it-all that it actually pisses me off. And that's when you know an actor's good, is when they can get emotions from you, where it's like they make you angry or they make you scared or they. So it's really disappointing.
Depending on the producer, you can have somebody that is different race and write a show about different races, but you have to make it right. You have to have the right cast, you have to have the right crew. If you just don't decide to work with people from that culture or that race or anything, and you just make it up because you want to make it up and you hate everybody, even though you're pretending that you don't hate everybody, it really makes you look bad.
Shit, yeah, that's very true.
That's like with the Mulan movie, for example, like that was filmed, the director was a white woman. There's nothing wrong with that, so long as all of your crew and all your director work together. That's mostly just what I believe, because like I'd totally work with somebody who's from the like the religion or the culture of the movie that I'm making, and just let them basically tell me what's right or wrong, and I'd be like, okay. Like, it's not hard to do that, just most directors are stubborn. Movies and stuff are supposed to be fake, and they're supposed to be kind of unrealistic, but there's only so far you can go before it just becomes too fake and too unrealistic and just looks bad.
Or you still want a little bit of realism mixed in with there. with that. I mean,
Because like if you make a movie, again going off the Mulan example, if you make a movie about a Chinese woman and you make the movie about like her white husband or something, like that's just stupid. If you take an adaptation from something, you have to be careful with how you adapt it as well.
Another thing I saw about the Mulan movie that people didn't like was that they made it that she was like a samurai sword fighting pro from like childhood. As far as I remember about the Disney movie and like the actual like true legend of Mulan, yes, she was good at sword fighting and stuff, but she wasn't doing backflips at 6 years old.
Yeah, so like there's a difference between messing a movie up so much that people aren't going to watch it and they're going to boycott it compared to when you really screw something up in a movie and it gets banned in a different country because there's different laws in different countries and of what you can and can't show. You can't just blame it on a country or anything. It's like you yourself really screwed up.
I also have a video here that shows comments from Paul Sun Hyung Lee, who he plays Appa on Kim's Convenience, so he plays the father. And this video just shows basically what his thoughts on season 5 ending were and how he felt, related to the show ending.
To the world, he is Appa, the stubborn, blunt, but well-meaning immigrant dad just trying to make a life in Toronto, running Kim's Convenience. But what started as a fringe festival play with Paul Sun-hyung Lee and Jin Yoon in the lead roles,
You just have to be nice.
I am nice.
quickly became a much bigger deal.
That's a rule. That's how they're doing that. Yeah.
Season after season
They're gender neutral.
Who? I only see one person.
after season.
When communities and people see themselves reflected up on the screens, it means they've moved from the margins into the forefront, and it gives them a voice.
But it all ended, suddenly and under a dark cloud. The co-creators leaving, the production company deciding it couldn't continue, and the cast members feeling blindsided, angry even. It's left the show's fans with one big question: why quit now? I sat down to chat with Paul Sun-hyung Lee just hours before the last episode aired.
I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you, because this must be an awfully weird day for you.
It's been very surreal right from the get-go, not gonna lie.
How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I think it's funny because I think there are so many mixed emotions and so many things to unpack still. I mean, since it's been a few weeks now since the announcement that the show isn't continuing, and it's been a process. Like I akin it to grieving a death in the family, because you have these waves of emotions that overwhelm you at times, and you're upset at how it ended, but then you remember the good times and you want to build on that. And so it comes and it goes. As time goes on, though, the pain hurts a little bit less, but there are certain moments that just sort of flash you back, like the final episode airing tonight. It just makes it so final and so real in some ways, and you think you've dealt with it, but obviously there's still a lot of emotion involved. But I am looking forward to next steps. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm excited about possibilities, and I want to take all the good from Kim's Convenience with me instead of just dwelling on how it ended.
Well, you talk about likening this to mourning a death, and some deaths you see coming and some you don't. Did you have any inkling at all when you were filming the last episode of the season that it might be the last episode of the series?
No, not whatsoever. That was that's been the hardest thing, is feeling robbed of the chance of, like, even if we'd had some inkling maybe to just soak it in a little bit more, or to just appreciate it a little bit more. I mean, we were shooting season 5 was shot under duress. It was during a pandemic. Everybody was physically separated from each other through PPE, through distance. We weren't able to interact with each other the same way we had been in previous seasons. And not only for the cast, but for the crew and the administrative departments. And so it felt very disconnected shooting it, but we were immensely proud that we had been able to pull it off in a sense. And then to get the news that that's it is heartbreaking, because you never get a chance. We didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and we never got a chance to do our victory lap and to celebrate all these moments, and to have that closure in a sense. And so when it's suddenly yanked away from you, it's very jarring, and it's hurtful. It hurts your heart, because this is something that was part of my life for 5 years, 10 if you count the play, and to have it end so unceremoniously um, was painful.
Thank you, God, for everything you give to us. For food, for freedom, for business. But most of all, thank you for family.
So what happened, Paul? Like on this decision to cut the series short. I mean, I've heard a few different accounts. I mean, some that the co-creator Inish Choi was sort of simply burning out on this, but you've also said that you tried reaching out to him, and there was a time where he wasn't even returning your calls, which sort of left a lot of us wondering. So what actually was happening?
Yeah, I mean, like everything, it wasn't like a designed plan to end the show, and there was no mustache twirling villain behind it. It was just, it's a complicated situation. I want to reach out to the and just find out, hey, I didn't want to try to change his mind. He made his decision, but I kind of felt that I would have liked to have known, or I felt I garnered the trust because after all this time spent together working on this project and championing it and championing him and everything, I just kind of thought that would have been just for my own sake. I I would have loved that, but he wouldn't return my calls.
So to this day, Paul, do you even have a full understanding of why it all kind of fell apart?
I I don't know the whole story. I will be the first to admit that. I know a bunch of it. I know what I know. And that's from my perspective. Again, it's very complicated. You look at it from different perspectives. There's so many different factors that come into play with the cessation of this show. It wasn't an easy decision. I don't envy the producers at all. CBC was a great support. They wanted the show very much so. They had greenlit season 6, so it wasn't a network decision, but it's complicated. It's really, really complicated. And at this time, right now, it's just I don't see the point of dredging it all up right now. I think it's too raw. It's too emotional. I think with time comes perspective as well. Cooler heads can prevail. I know I'm still emotional about it. Some of the other cast members are as well. But at the same token, it's like, to what end would that serve it? I really wanted to sort of turn the page in a sense, and take the good from Kim's Convenience, all the groundbreaking work that we did, all the barriers that we broke through, the representation that we showed, and take that with me instead of how it ended. Now, I think there's a time and a place for that discussion too, because I think for the industry to grow and evolve and to protect and nurture BIPOC artists behind the camera as well, this is a hard conversation that needs to be had. That's the only way to grow. And it's not going to be, it shouldn't be about finger pointing or you didn't do this or you didn't do that. This Kim's was a first show of its kind. And a first show is always going to make mistakes. But for us to grow as an industry, we need to learn from those mistakes without judgment, without people tisk-tisking. We're all human beings and we make decisions that maybe weren't the best in the long run, but worked at the time. And so it's all a learning process. And that's my biggest hope of everything that comes out of this messy ending for Kim's, is that with time and perspective, we can learn from this and grow the industry and have so many more shows like Kim's succeed, and sort of exceed where we went because they've learned the lessons from us. I think that's best case scenario, and this is something that I hold in my heart that I truly, truly want.
So I feel like those were the most important points from the video. Well, moving on to our second segment now. This happened incredibly recently. What happened in London, Ontario was a driver slammed into a Muslim family, killing 4 people in what the Canadian PM calls a terrorist attack, which he's not wrong. It was absolutely a terrorist attack. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Tuesday called the killing of 4 members of a Muslim family mowed down by a pickup truck a terrorist attack. He says their lives were taken in a brutal, cowardly, and brazen act of violence. This killing was no accident. This was a terrorist attack motivated by hatred in the heart of one in our community. The family of 5 was waiting at an intersection in the Canadian city of London on Sunday when a driver intentionally mounted the curb and struck them, killing 4 because of their Islamic faith, officials said. There is evidence that this was a planned, premeditated act, motivated by hate. It is believed that these victims were targeted because they were Muslim, said Detective Superintendent Paul Waite of the London Police. There is no known previous connection between the suspect and the victim. Trudeau said the victims were 2 parents, 2 children, and a grandmother. He identified them as, pardon me if I say any of these names wrong, by the way. They were identified as Salman Afazal, his wife Madia, and their daughter Yumna. Salma and Madia's son Fayez survived the attack. The grandmother was not identified. We all hope that the little boy will be able to heal from his injuries quickly, even though we know he will have to live a very long time with the sadness, anger, and incomprehension caused by the cowardly Islamophobic attack. Officials had not identified the victims before Trudeau's speech. A 74-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene Sunday night, and the other 4 family members, a 46-year-old man, a 44-year-old woman, a 15-year-old girl, and a 9-year-old boy, were transported to the hospital by paramedic services. The parents and their daughter died at the hospital, police said. The son is recovering in serious but non-life-threatening condition, officials said. A GoFundMe account was set up on behalf of the family, and it raised more than $340,000 as of Tuesday afternoon. The horrific nature of the crimes perpetuated against the Salman family serve as a reminder of the long shadow of Islamophobia that has cast on the lives of peaceful Muslim families across the world, the page said. Salman Afazal was a psychotherapist who participated in local cricket matches and was active in the community at his mosque, according to the GoFundMe page. Medea Salman was completing a doctorate in civil engineering at Western University, according to the page. She was a brilliant scholar and a caring mother and friend. Yunma Salman was nearly finished with the 9th grade, according to the page. The grandmother, the mother of Salman Afazal, who was not named, is described as a pillar of their family that cherished their daily walks. The page said donations will be used as Sadia Jaria on behalf of the Salman family. The page described Sadia Jaria as an important concept within Islam. It is a gift that not only benefits others in this life, but also benefits us and our loved ones in the next. So the murderer was a 20-year-old white man. Trudeau said that Islamophobic attacks throughout the country diminish all Canadians. This is happening here in Canada and it has to stop, he said. We must not become desensitized to this violence. We must not accept this as normal. Every time we witness such hate, we must call it out. The House of Commons observed a moment of silence for the victims before Trudeau spoke on Tuesday. According to Waite, the family was waiting at the intersection when a black pickup truck driven by 20-year-old... Personally, I don't want to say his name because I feel like he doesn't deserve publicity, so I'm not going to say his name. The family was waiting at the intersection when a black pickup truck driven by 20-year-old, redacted, mounted the curb and struck them. The murderer was later stopped in the parking lot of a mall where he was arrested, according to police. He has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. According to Waite, London police are working with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on potential terrorism charges against the murderer. It is unclear if the murderer has attained an attorney. We understand that this event may cause fear and anxiety within the community, and in particular to the Muslim community, and any community targeted by hate. I want to assure all Londoners that all of us on the call today, and many others, stand with you and support you, London Police Chief Steve Williams said. There is no tolerance in this community for individuals who, motivated by hate, target others with violence. I mean, if those listening don't know, London is a city in southwestern Ontario with a population of around 385,000 people. Justin Trudeau also said, "For the loved ones of those who were terrorized by yesterday's act of hatred, we are here for you. We are also here for the child who remains in hospital. Our hearts go out to you, and you will be in our thoughts as you recover," he said. To the Muslim community in London and to the Muslims across the country, know that we stand with you. Islamophobia has no place in any of our communities. This hate is insidious and despicable, and it must stop, he added.
It is horrible. Like, you know what's gross about CTV is that today when they were talking about the stupid idiot who hit them, you know what they said? And this is what we see every freaking time when there's a school shooting in, like, America, when somebody's...
Oh, did they say he had mental illness?
Well, no, but this is what they did said. They said coworker Tina Perry, who says she has known him for several years, tells CTV News that he was always a nice guy who kept to himself but was there to help when needed. She says she was shocked at the allegations. "I'm very shaken up about this. I would never think in a million years he would do something like that." And then they used a picture of him running, not like a mugshot, but like just a picture of him running. And my friend, he was the one who actually found this. He said the photo of the scumbag terrorist should be ashamed of themselves, reporting that he was apparently a nice guy, then posting a photo of him running instead of his mugshot makes me want to fucking vomit. The way our media covers white terrorists is repulsive.
Absolutely.
Why are you trying to the opposite of villainize him? I don't know. what is this? Oh, he was such a nice guy. You know, we never thought he would do this. Bitch, come on. That you don't just wake up one day and decide to commit a hate crime. There's
there's
somebody
something.
yes.
It's like underlying. It's always there.
Yes, like there had to have been signs.
Honestly, I feel like people who make those excuses, who are like, "Oh, they were such a nice person. Like, I didn't think they would ever do this." I always wonder if there's a little bit of racism in them as well.
Yeah, it's like
Because it's like, how could you not see signs? Like, racism is pretty easy to point out. You can say that person's racist. They made a joke about this, or they made a joke about that.
you know what? Ted
Well,
Bundy worked
it's
at a
kinda
suicide hotline and then went and killed women on the side. So like, what
Yeah,
the
it's
fuck
kind
does
of
that matter?
hard to say because people are really good at hiding it. Like, look at all the serial killers that got away with shit for years. Like, it's not really something that is always worn on somebody's sleeve. Yeah, we could say that he's obviously racist, but the people that did know him might not have known that or seen it because he probably hid it.
But for me, if
I guess that's true.
for me, if that happened, I still wouldn't say he was nice. I would have been like, wow,
Yeah.
he fooled me. He fooled
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Yeah,
No.
like you could be like, yeah, like I've known him, he's nice, but he's obviously not, and he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like when I knew him, he was cool. Like, no, he's not cool anymore. Like, I don't care about him.
You
Like,
can even say, like, I thought he was a nice person, but apparently he's a racist piece of shit.
And I drove past it last night. People were.
Mm.
I know there's a vigil today, I guess an official vigil with Justin Trudeau, but people were also there last night too. The news was there and people were putting down flowers.
And Jagmeet Singh, who, for those who don't know, is the leader of the Canadian NDP party, he tweeted a few things related to this situation because himself, he is Muslim as well. He is Muslim or he is Sikh. I apologize. I always get that mixed up. But obviously, this situation is like close to his heart. One of the first things he tweeted, he said, "The news from London, Ontario is horrifying. A Muslim family was out for a walk like many this pandemic. They were murdered because of their faith. This is an act of Islamophobia and terror. More than ever, we must stand with our Muslim family, friends, and neighbors against such vile hate." The second thing he tweeted, he said, "I will be joining my Muslim friends and family in London today to grieve with them, to pray with them, to be with them, because that's what we do for the people we love. Hashtag our London family." And the third thing he tweeted, the caption says, "Some people say this is not our Canada. The reality is that this is our Canada. These horrible acts of Islamophobia keep happening. A family was going for a walk and was killed in a terrorist attack. Things must change. How many more people and families will it take before action is taken?" And there's a video here where I believe it's him speaking within Parliament related to this case.
Assalamu alaikum. Today's a hard day. To think about what this means to Muslims and their families across this country. We've heard people mention this, but it is so common. All of us have gone for walks with our family in this pandemic because there's nowhere else to go. There's places that are shut down. So you go for a walk. And to think that a family going for a walk couldn't make it home. To think that that casual walk around the block in our neighborhood would be one's last. To think that you can't walk safely down your own street. And to think about what that means for a Muslim family right now. People are talking to their families and saying, you know what, maybe you shouldn't go for a walk. There are people literally thinking about whether they should walk out their front door in our country. When we think about what that means, some people have said, this is not our Canada. And I think about what that means when people say this is not our Canada. This happened in London, Ontario. I lived in London, Ontario for 5 years. I loved my time there. I think about the fact that my parents chose to make Canada our home. I love my home. I love this place. But the reality is, this is our Canada. This is our Canada. Our Canada is a place where 215 little kids were found dead in unmarked graves. Our Canada is a place where you can't walk down the streets if you wear a hijab because you will be killed. This is our Canada. We can't deny it. We can't reject that because it does no one any help. The reality is our Canada is a place of racism, of violence, of genocide of Indigenous people, and our Canada is a place where Muslims aren't safe. They aren't. They aren't safe. Muslims are not safe in this country. And Muslims wonder, I've spoken to people. They wonder, how many more lives will it take? How many more families will be mauled down the street? How many more families will be killed before we do something? Innocent people were killed while praying in a place of prayer, in a masjid, in a mosque in Quebec, gunned down. A man was a Muslim man in Toronto, was knifed and killed. And both of those incidents, we know very clearly that it was directly because of hate. It was because of hate. There was so much hate towards someone that they did not know just because of who they were, because of how they prayed, because of what they looked like. That is a reality. People live with that every day. They walk the streets wondering if I will be attacked just because of the way I look, not because of an enemy that I have, or not because of someone that's got a problem with me. Will I be attacked today just because of the way I look? That is a real question people ask.
I appreciate how well spoken he is on these types of topics. I literally just saw this video here. Jagmeet received a loud and lengthy applause and cheers when he stepped up to the podium at the London Mosque Vigil. It's amazing to me that he came all the way down to London for this. I mean, I didn't see Trudeau do that, so.
Is he? Yeah, Trudeau's there.
Oh wait, was he there?
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
Girl, the first
Oh, damn.
article that you read, he was there.
No. I don't pay attention. It's confusing and iffy because he didn't show up for the trial they had for the passing of that Indigenous bill.
Oh,
So I know people are kind of being
I remember that.
so him showing up, I guess that's why I got mixed up. I am hoping that the poor little boy who was left behind finds some peace and is able to weed through, I guess, the trauma that he's unfortunately going to have to deal with for the rest of his life. Moving on to our third and last topic. This one's a little more lighthearted. I found it really funny. I don't know if you guys will, but I thought it was hilarious. So, a Washington woman is facing public intoxication charges after a profanity-filled rant at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, where a video captured her screaming at police and demanding to speak to the manager of the fucking airport, in quotations. Tara Ann Blues, 62, of Carson Walsh, was arrested on charges of resisting arrest, search or transport, possession of marijuana under 2 ounces, possession of a dangerous drug, and public intoxication. All that according to the May 25 incident report attained by Global News. Blues allegedly tried to rush the doors of an American Airlines flight after she was denied boarding, according to the report. American Airlines staff tried to stop her, and another passenger pushed her away, causing her to trip over the airline staffer's foot and fall, the report says. The now viral video picks up after the initial incident at the boarding doors, with a police officer speaking face-to-face with an unmasked woman. Of course she was unmasked as well. I didn't even know that. God damn it. Bliss was being very irate and aggravated when I was trying to get her to calm down, the officer said in his incident report. He added that she was sweating profusely, breathing heavy, and her eyes were red, bloodshot, and glassy. In the video, Bliss shouts her full name at the officer and claims she was choked or thrown down to the ground. I want the manager of the fucking airport here, she shouts at the officer. Bliss then storms away from the gate and tries to solicit support from other passengers who are awaiting to board. Who saw him choke me to the ground, she says in the video. Who saw me? I saw you run through the door when you weren't supposed to, says the man recording the video, who appears to be sitting near the gate. He chokeholded me to the ground, she shouts back at the man. I am a woman in a dress, she adds, seemingly referring to the skirt she's wearing. Boo-hoo, the man says. Boo-hoo. The woman then tells the man to fuck off and then repeats her call. I want the manager of the airport here. A second clip shows Buzz being taken into custody after removing her sweater. Please someone film this, she says in the video. Well, they did film you, girl, and it's not nice. The suspect allegedly went limp and used her dead weight to resist arrest, according to the report. Officers had to pick her up by the feet and shoulders to get her into a police car. The woman allegedly told police that she'd had 2 margaritas at the airport bar. The receipt for those margaritas was included in the incident report. Blair stated that she did not take any medication and had no health conditions, the report said. Officers searched her belongings and recovered a pipe and a green leafy substance said to be marijuana, according to the report. They also found thiacidine, which is a muscle relaxer, naproxen, which is a painkiller and anti-inflammatory, gabapentin, which is used to treat epilepsy, and dicloferic sodium, which is used for joint pain relief. All 4 drugs are authorized by the FDA. Marijuana is fully legal in the suspect's home state of Washington, but not in Texas, where she was arrested, or in Louisiana, where her flight was bound. The other passenger involved in the incident told police that she did not put the suspect in a chokehold. I pushed her back, he said, according to the incident report. Another American Airlines customer representative also said that the passenger pushed the woman away. The flight from Dallas to Shreveport, LA was 35 minutes late, record show. American Airlines referred questions about the incident to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. The initial video captured millions of views on social media last week, although it was incorrectly tagged at the Indianapolis airport. The woman was dubbed Airport Karen on social media, an internet meme referring to a white woman who raises their tribal complaints with someone in authority, such as a manager. Karens always want the manager, rapper Ice-T tweeted. Hold on, let's pull up the screenshot of his tweet. Ice-T tweeted, "She wants the manager of the airport. Karens always want the manager. Lol." I do have the video of her little temper tantrum.
He threw me to the ground! My name is Terry M. Booth. I want the manager of the fucking airport here!
That's not gonna happen.
Stop him! Joking! Who saw him choke me to the ground? Who saw me?
I saw you run through the door when you weren't supposed to, and
He
then I saw him
me
push
to
you
the
out
ground!
the door.
You deserve
I'm pretty sure you're
in a
mistaken.
dress!
Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo! You fuck off!
Excuse me?
I want the manager of the airport here!
Wow.
I heard him starting to fight somebody there.
Yeah, I think it was probably another policeman or something telling him to shut up because he was kind of egging her on, but
Yeah.
Not help.
not
Really
helping.
isn't helping. Really isn't helping though.
You could tell from the sound in her voice as well. She was obviously intoxicated with something. She didn't sound sober or like coherent. She was slurring her words a little bit. This second video is actually footage of her getting arrested.
Oh, I mean arrested for chokehold. Please somebody film this! Please someone film this! Please someone film this! Please! God damn it, please someone. I didn't do anything. I have to get on this plane. Why am I being held? Please! That guy chokeholded me! You're holding me from my flight! Someone please record this! Please! God damn it! You have these cuffs on very I'm not being transported. Take the cuffs off of me! I mean,
Oh my god. Did they wheel her off in with the luggage carriers?
Or is that a wheelchair?
It looks like a luggage carrier.
Oh my god.
Girl, you got school in the morning. Get your ass in the car.
Get your ass in
in
the
the
carrier.
luggage. Get your ass in the luggage carrier. Oh my goodness.
Like they do have wheelchairs there, but like it looks like a luggage carrier. They're the little things on the sides. They're not armrests, I think, because they would be lower if they were a wheelchair.
It'd be actually kind of funny if they did wheel her off on a luggage carrier. But I don't know. I thought that was really funny. I mean, the fact that she's screaming that she did nothing, but at the same time, girl, you had lots of drugs in your bag.
She did? Oh shit.
Yeah, did you miss when I read that all out?
No, I thought you said something different, but I was like, wait, I thought she was just angry. What kind of drugs did she have?
No, she had marijuana in her bag.
Oh, but that's legal.
Not in every state.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I thought because this was globalnews.ca that this happened in Canada.
No, it's
Oh.
it's not legal in every state. Where there, it's legal in like half, I think, maybe a little bit less than half.
And she had a ton of like muscle relaxers and shit in her bag, which they're approved by the FDA, but I don't know if she actually needed them or if she was just making a pill cocktail or like what. I mean, I'm sure like in the actual moment it was scary to people around them, but I think it's funny. I can't believe that she actually legitimately asked for the airport manager.
Yeah.
I need to see the airport boss. I need a boss battle with the airport king. Where is he?
And that concludes our episode 3 of our podcast.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay!
Thank you for listening and tuning in. We hope you join us next week.
And stay tuned for Instagram. We will be discussing and revealing topics that we will be talking about very soon.